Hey everybody, Daryl Lucas here. A few weeks ago, I cast my first vote for an election in Michigan that counted for something since we unexpectedly moved up here 2 years ago. The Democratic primary for governor and for Senate. As some of you have known me for some time, I canvassed for Haley Stevens last year, and I was proud to vote for her for Senate. But she narrowly lost to Abdul El Sayed. Now, on paper, I'm the kind of guy who would listen to Mike Rogers' recent appeals to Democrats as to cross over and vote for him. I'm a moderate Democrat, probably a liberal one by West Michigan standards, just like I was a liberal one by North Carolina standards. I'm a charismatic Christian, so on paper, I'd be receptive to appeals to Rogers' recent appeals. But then, you know what I see when I look a little deeper at Rogers? I see a guy who went from criticizing Trump for peddling the big lie to stacking his campaign with a nest full of election deniers. I see a guy who stood on stage with Trump and the candidate for governor, Congressman John James, while James called Trump the three-time winner of Michigan, when all of us who don't have MAGA hats glued to our heads know that Trump lost Michigan in 2020 to Joe Biden. I see a guy who openly declares he will advance Trump's agenda, and that his main job is to ensure that Trump's agenda goes through the Senate. I see a guy who has sat and watched while his buddies in both the House and Senate have targeted El Sayed with Islamophobic slurs. Yeah. As many of my longtime friends know, in past years, while I'm as Democratic as they come, I at least looked at voting for some Republicans, particularly at the local level in Charlotte. But ever since Trump got his hands in the GOP, I've decided that unless, barring anything unforeseen, I'm not voting for a Republican anytime soon. Not unless the party shakes itself loose of this criminal, this gangster, this thug, this traitor from Mar-a-Lago by way of Queens. And suffice to say, Mike Rogers had a hard sell to make to me, and he hasn't even begun to make it. So, Mike, if you're watching this West Michigan Democrat has a message for you. Take your appeals to Democrats and stick them where the sun don't shine. Abdul El Sayed wasn't my first choice to be Michigan's next senator. But if the choice is between a man who I know will uphold his oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and a guy who is the very epitome of someone who would sell that oath out just to knuckle under Trump, there's not really a choice. I'm voting for Abdul El Sayed, and barring anything unforeseen, because Mike Rogers is not worthy of representing Michigan in the Senate. Not now, and not ever, unless he comes to his senses and shakes himself loose of Trump.